Alrighty guys, I'm Casey and welcome to a brand new episode of Into the Farlands. If you're new to the series and you don't know what this series is, the Farlands are a piece of janky terrain that generate about 12.5 million blocks out in the distance. And we are going to be using this series to walk that distance since there's no commands, there's no way to fly in this version of Minecraft. We are in the beta of Minecraft, beta 1.7.3 I believe it was, maybe 1.7 something else, but you get the point that, yeah, they're only in this version. They are actually, I believe, in a Bedrock version. But we're walking to them in this version. And that's a long, tedious journey that really isn't interesting, as I'm literally just going to be walking in one direction. I apologize, my screen sort of flashed on me there. I think one of my HDMI cables is ready for going. But yeah, it kind of feels like... So yeah, the journey itself isn't really interesting, so I like to use this series as a bit of a vlogging series, as a way to talk to you guys about things that are going on in my life or just events in the world. We've talked about quite a few things over the course of this series already, from why I do YouTube, to gaming, to TV shows, to Britain law gone mad in one episode. I try and keep things away from political and religion stuff, although I'm more than happy to discuss my religion, and why I believe what I believe, and some of the things that's happened to lead me to believe that. But I'm not open to the idea that I want to debate which religions are real and which ones are not, because I think that's just a bad idea. So I don't want to debate that. But this episode, what we're going to talk about is we're going to sort of carry on the theme from last episode. Last episode we talked about TV shows we watched. And I had a bunch come to me after that one. You know, lots that I used to watch as a kid, cartoons. Literally, they all kind of flooded me afterwards. But I thought that we would take this opportunity to talk about movies. So sort of similar to the last episode, only we're going to move away from TV shows and move on to movies. And I'm going to talk about some of the movies that's had an impact on my life, some of the movies that are my favourite movies, and some movies that I just really didn't like very much. So just like I want to try and do a let's play of a game, I want to try and watch as many movies as possible, but again, my time is very limiting, so unfortunately I don't get to really do that. And unlike with gaming, where I can combine it with my hobby of YouTube, and it could potentially become something that actually does contribute to my living, watching films as of right now, there isn't really a way to do that. I can't do let's watches, but it'd be awesome if you could, wouldn't it? I mean, that would be awesome. But anyway, so recently I saw a tweet from one of the YouTubers that I watch called Wells Night, and he tweeted out, could YouTubers please not put dubstep music at full volume on their videos? And the tweet also talked about how he likes to fall asleep at night watching YouTube videos. He puts them on, watches them as he drifts off to sleep, and he doesn't appreciate being woken up about 5 o'clock in the morning with loud dubstep music because they've put it in the middle of their video at full volume. And another hermit replied to that tweet saying that this is why he watches the movie Big Trouble in Little China, or Big Trouble in Little China I believe it was, and he watches that every night while he falls asleep, puts it on repeat, so on and so forth. Now that kind of piqued me because when I was a kid growing up, I thought I was a really strange person because out of all of my friends and close family members, I was the only one who used to do that. I used to put a film on, put it on repeat the whole night, and watch the same film all night to sleep to. And I would periodically change the film every few months or so, but it would be the same film for a considerable amount of time. And we'll talk about what some of those films were. But when I sort of would stay over at my cousin's, I spoke about my cousin who I was very close to growing up as a kid. I used to game with her, but when we used to stay over at her house and not at mine, I mean 95% of the time we were at mine, but there were some times when I did stay over there, she didn't have the telly on to go to sleep to at night. She didn't watch anything to fall asleep to. She would turn it off and we would sleep. And when I met my wife, and I used to stay at hers, again the same thing. When I used to stay at my dad's, my little brother would watch something. Oh, he's a stepbrother. He's not my dad's. My dad's new wife's kid. But anyway, he would, as he would fall asleep. He would watch Nightmare on Elm Street, but he'd only watch one. He wouldn't put it on repeat or anything. And as he was starting to get tired, he would turn it off. So it was quite often that I felt that I was the only person who would watch something on repeat the whole night. And so I felt very strange about that until I seen this tweet, and then I realized, you know what, maybe I'm not. I mean, Wells is, I want to say, around my age, and TFC, the other hermit that replied, he's in his late 50s, I believe, and you know, I'm not alone in that fact that I used to do that. But I haven't done it in many years. I haven't watched something to fall asleep to in many years. In fact, I don't even have a telly in my bedroom anymore to try and battle my insomnia, because I have really bad insomnia. But yeah, so some of these films I used to watch as a kid. I used to watch some of the TV shows I mentioned in the previous episode, most notably Monk and Gilmore Girls, usually season 1 because that's all I owned on DVD, and it was usually the first 4 episodes. But as a kid, I used to watch a small array of films. There was Shanghai Noon, and See No Evil, Hear No Evil, and Rush Hour. And I loved these films. And Tremors, how could I forget about Tremors? But I'll get into Tremors later. And now my favourite film of all time is See No Evil, Hear No Evil, with Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor in it. You've got a deaf guy and a blind guy. One basically sees the murder, or the other one well, I guess he doesn't see the murder, but he's sort of present, but his back is turned to the murder. The other one hears it. Between both of them, they kind of know who did it and how it was done, but the cops believe that they are the ones to do it, and so the film is basically them running away from the killers, and the cops chasing them down. And it's a comedy, and it's a lot of fun to watch. Absolutely brilliant film. There are a couple of mess ups where he shouldn't have heard something, but he actually does hear it, and you kind of ask why. And then there's some bits that happen that make you wonder, did he do that? So like improvise that, just do that on the spot because of the other guy's reaction with something you just can't fake. And it's a brilliant film, and I can watch that film over and over again. One of the guys I follow on, one of the YouTubers I follow, I actually follow his Facebook page. He's one of the few that I actually follow the Facebook page on. So I must have done this back years ago when I used Facebook a lot, but he put out a thing on Facebook, one of those, you see them all over the place. If you had to watch one film for $10,000, or it's something like that, what film would it be? You had to watch it for an entire day or a week straight. I can't exactly remember. And I would quite happily pick See No Evil, Hear No Evil, because I could watch that film over and over again and never grow bored. I absolutely love that film. It's my favourite film of all time. And I found out recently that those two, Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder, actually did a few films together. So I keep meaning to pick them up, but I just keep forgetting. So I may do that on payday. But yeah, so my favourite film, See No Evil, Hear No Evil. And again, Shanghai Noon. I never watched the sequels to Shanghai Noon, but I really did enjoy the first film. And I did always mean to watch the sequels, but I don't know why I didn't. I think I'm going to grab some more coal so we've got the torches while I'm here. But yeah, let's talk about my favourite film franchise. So, I'm not a fan of many new films. Many of the films that are out today, you know. But I don't watch the Fast and Furious. I've seen the first two and I couldn't for the life of me figure out what the story really was. To me, it was just all about cars. And I think that's what the appeal of it is. I don't think there's actually much in the sense of a story there. But I could be wrong. You know, it didn't get popular till the later Fast and Furious, really. So, I mean, we'll see. I do plan to watch them, but I kind of got bored after the second one. But one of my favourite film franchises, which is as old as me, well, it's like a month younger than me, I believe, or a month older than me, but it still came out in 1990, which was the year I was born. And that was Tremors. Now, the first, 3 to 4 films, they kind of were many, many years apart. And especially, well, the first 4 were spread over, I don't know, I think 14 years, I believe. And then 5, 6, and 7 have all been spread over about a 5-year period. And this franchise is basically, you've got these Wait, I feel like I talked about this. I feel like I talked about movies because I remember talking about Tremors before. In fact, I remember writing a description about Tremors. So where did I do that? Have I talked about movies on this channel before? I feel like I have. Where did I write that? Maybe I wrote a review. I don't think I wrote a review of it though. I feel like I talked about this. I apologise if I've talked about movies before on this channel. I do apologise for that. I feel like I have now. But they're shaped like a gentleman's sausage. Where did I... And anyway, I really feel like I've talked about Tremors before. I don't think so. There are times where I will voice a conversation to myself just to see how it rolls off the tongue, and if it rolls really well, then I roll with it, but if it doesn't, then I don't always roll with it. But I don't see why I would... Anyway, let's move past that. So it's about these creatures that live underground, and they evolve over time. They evolved. They went from being creatures underground to being creatures that could see heat, and then creatures that could take flight. And then they sort of advanced even further when they sort of rebooted the franchise. They didn't reboot it, they continued it, but they really sort of like reshaped and reworked some of the lore a little bit. And I gotta say, I do like both the old lore and the new lore. I think they both really work in the way that they change the graboids, which is what they're called, the creatures, graboids. But it's a really good franchise. It kind of was a very serious franchise, and then it kind of became more comedic as one of the sort of... I wouldn't call him a main character in the first story. He was certainly a prominent character, but he was more of a secondary character who then became the franchise. And, you know, they did a series, but I never watched the series because it was insanely hard to get a hold of. Insanely hard. Like... And I don't know, I'm going to see if I can actually purchase it now, because there's more avenues open to us now. You know, back when I was a kid, it was sort of like video stores and stuff like that. I know we really had it. Although now I could probably find it on Amazon, I would imagine. You know? Or as a kid, the dodgy DVD guy, or the pop man who always used to sell dodgy DVDs. And of course, as a kid, you don't know that that's wrong, you know? But he never could find it. I think he found one episode once. But apart from that, nah. So, I'm going to have a look myself now, see if I can actually get it. But Tremors is one of my favourite franchises. I love the film. I love how it evolved over the course of them. And I'm glad that number 7 is coming out. I pre-ordered number 6, I pre-ordered number 5, and I'm going to pre-order number 7. Although I don't have a clue what happened to number 5. Like, I've got my Blu-ray of number 6, but I don't know where my copy of 5 is. I thought maybe my aunt borrowed it, because my aunt is a big... Definitely don't want to go that way. My aunt is a big fan of the franchise. But, no, I asked her, she had number 6, but she didn't have number 5. And so, I don't know what happened to my number 5. But I'm really glad that they're doing a number 7. But I'm not too hyped about the revisit series. They were going to do a series. Right now it's in sort of like developmental hell. They passed on it, and they were looking for a new home last I heard. Don't know if they found one, or if they're still looking, or if they gave up on the idea. But it incorporated Kevin Bacon, so a big famous actor, but it kind of negated Tremors 2 onwards. It only incorporated the first film. The rest were not considered canon anymore and were disregarded in favour of this series, which to me was a very big blow to the groin, because Michael Gross, the guy who kind of built this series himself as the main character now, he's been a part of this, and every single Tremors fan in the world, I guarantee you, is a fan of Burt Gummer, Michael Gross. Because he is such a real, well, that's a little bit ridiculous there, look. He's a real hard ass. Great. There goes my family friendly rating. He's a real bad, tough guy. He loves his guns from the military. But, I think I should probably move on from Tremors because I could spend the whole video literally talking about that one film. Or that one franchise. Another film franchise that I really, really love is Rush Hour. Now, I'm not much of an action buff. I honestly believe once you've seen one action film, you've pretty much seen them all. They're very, very similar, and that is true about pretty much any genre, especially horror. But I love horror. So, yeah, I know I'm a hypocrite on that, but it is what it is. Deal with it. So I tend not to really think too much of them, but I think this was because I was a kid and I was a Jackie Chan fan as a kid who wasn't. And so I like the franchise. I think if it had been now, I wouldn't have, but because it was a kid, I did. I do look periodically about updates for number 4, and well, it seems that we're getting a number 4, but I don't know. It seems to be a very, very, very slow process. Another one of my favourite films that actually a few years ago actually got confirmed for a sequel, an actual true sequel, but since then there has been no information on it whatsoever. And that was Bruce Almighty, because I love Jim Carrey. The only thing I don't like about the guy is he is notorious for not doing sequels. He's done, I think, 2 sequels. I think he did Dumber and Dumber 2, which is the same time Bruce Almighty 2 was announced. And he's also done the Ace Ventura series. And I wish he would do sequels, because I'd love a sequel to Yes Man. I'd love a sequel to Bruce Almighty. Although I don't quite know where the sequel to Yes Man would go, but it was a very nice concept. And I would really like to see it again. And that's one of the big reasons I don't particularly like movies as a general rule. I will more, if I get a choice between a day watching movies or a day watching a TV show, I'll pick a TV show because I like to get attached to the characters. I like to get immersed into the world. And with a lot of movies, it's really difficult to do that. Now, there are some movie franchises that you can do this with, like Tremors, for example. Another one of the franchises that I really, really love was Saw. I really, really love Saw. I really enjoyed Jigsaw. And I chose the worst time to watch Jigsaw because it was the day that someone was coming out to do something or other. I don't remember. He may have been replacing my bath because I had that replaced. He may have been fixing the toilet. It was a plumber doing something in my bathroom. I can't remember what. But it just so happened to be the day that I wasn't feeling very well. I had a very iffy stomach. I don't know if I had a dodgy takeout the previous day or something. But I think it was something going around because my mum felt the same. And she came around and she was not feeling well. She came around and, this was after I'd separated from my wife. So neither one of us were feeling well. We both had an iffy stomach. And we were just browsing through, I believe it was Netflix. It may have been Amazon, but Netflix. And we came across Jigsaw among a couple of other horrors, and we decided to watch Jigsaw. And, well, it's a very gory film, and when you've got a dodgy stomach, the things that don't normally bother you, they do bother you. And everything looks like puke, and it's just not a fun experience, really, really not. And we couldn't go to the bathroom either because there was work being done in there. It was terrible. So, great franchise though. And that's the only thing that really makes me queasy. Like, I could watch brutal scenes in films, no problems. Very little really makes me queasy or turns my stomach. But when you start entering the brain area, like in one of the Saw films where he cuts into his head, that's it. I go weak in the knees. Unless it's my own blood. I can't stomach my own blood. If I cut myself, that's it. I go queasy for some reason. Which was great because I used to wrestle, and the amount of times I would get cut in matches, it was unreal. Especially because I didn't wrestle in an actual ring. I wrestled in a backyard. Things were less than safe there, but that's another story for another day. I may talk about my wrestling days. So, when it comes to movies, like I said, I tend not to get too attached to movies. And I tend to usually prioritize ones that I think have an interesting concept behind them. where I will watch, like I said, I'm not much of an action buff, but I do really enjoy 24, and that's an action TV show. But the reason I enjoy that is because I could attach to some of the characters. I liked Tony and I liked Jack, of course. And even the president was relatable in the earlier seasons. There was characters to really hate. And you don't develop that relationship of loving or hating a character over the course of just an episode. I mean, maybe your opinion would change on the character over the course of an episode, but you do this over the course of 20 episodes, and you build up and, you become attached to those characters. But when you're watching a movie, you've only got about an hour and a half to really get attached to these characters. And with an hour and a half, it's not enough time for me to get attached to a character, really. It's not. I mean, maybe that's enough for some people, but for me, I think that I would cry more from a TV death in a TV show than I would from a movie death in a movie series. Simply because, well, I'm attached to those characters. So the amount of movies that I watch is very, very limiting, usually to those that people want me to watch. For example, recently I had a couple of friends staying over. I've mentioned this in the past couple of videos, and we watched Space Odyssey or Space Odyssey, something like that. It was an old film that was a complete rip-off of Star Wars. Now, I've never seen Star Wars, okay? I know who Darth Vader is, and I know who the characters are. Some of the characters, just because you pick up those things. But I don't really know who many of. I don't know like the storyline or how it went, but I really enjoyed that film. It was really fun. Lord Helmet was funny. And so I do like those kind of films because essentially what it was a cheesy comedy. And I do love a good cheesy comedy. I love parody comedies. I loved Epic Movie. That was the Epic Movie. I loved the Scary Movie franchise. And, there was no point in even getting attached to a character in that because it didn't matter if they got killed off. For some reason, they would more than likely be back in the next film without any explanation to, hey, I'm alive. I mean, the girl with the dreadlocks, the black chick, I forget her name now, but she died in, I think it was like every single film. It's been a while since I've watched a Scary Movie, so bear with me on that one. I could be a little bit wrong. And I do love general parody films. I'll watch them. I love parody songs as well. And so it usually has to be something like that for me to actually really watch it, or to be a comedy or to be a horror. I love supernatural horrors. I've watched The Conjuring and the entire series that goes along with that, including The Nun, so many times. Actually, I've only seen The Nun once, but I have seen The Conjuring a few times. Annabelle, again, fantastic film, love them. And growing up as a kid, my mum was big on slashers, and she still is to this day. And I was only ever big on Freddy. I liked Freddy Krueger, but my mum was always Jason, and my cousin was always, I think it was Michael Myers. It was a guy from Halloween. I've never seen Halloween, so I do apologise if I've got that wrong. But, yeah. So I was always exposed to a lot of slashers growing up, and, well, I used to find it funny. There was one film that I watched called Chopping Mall. It was about these robotic police in a mall in America. There was Chopping Mall, I imagine, then. And these things got I think it was like a strike of lightning, sent these things into haywire. Everybody in the mall was deemed a target, and there were some teenagers who had stumbled in the mall at night, having fun, thought it'd be fun, and these robots are going to kill them. And there's this one scene where you've got this woman. She's your typical woman from the 80s where she's going to die because in the 80s you knew that a woman was always going to trip over and die. And anyway, she's running away from this robot. Running down the corridor. I want to say something that's not family friendly, but I'm not going to. She's running down the corridor with no clothes on, I believe, if I remember rightly. But she's running down this corridor, down this hallway, and then all of a sudden, as she's running full pelt. All of a sudden, her head goes pop, and it splatters all over the place. Blood, gore. The robot has shot him in the head, hadn't it? Well, I saw that, and my immediate reaction was to burst out laughing. My mum just turns to me and goes, "You're sick. How can you find that funny?" And I'm just sat there, 13, 14-year-old me going, "Yeah, but her head went pop." And she never let me forget that. She never lets me forget that I laugh at deaths in movies. And I a couple of years ago, I showed this scene to my wife. And I didn't tell my wife anything about it. Second it happened, my wife bursts out laughing. And I'm like, exactly, it's funny. And also the people I like in slashers are always the ones who get it in the end anyway. All my favourite characters die or turn evil. I tell you. But I feel like I haven't even gone over a lot of movies in this, so I've just kind of been talking about some. But I'll tell you one movie that I did watch recently, that about a year ago now, that was kind of not in my cup of tea. It was called Stolen. And basically what it is this woman is attacked. This woman and her family are attacked. The baby is stolen, the husband is killed. And she's a rich woman, or her husband was anyway. This is back in, the 17th century, maybe the 18th century. It was, I don't think, it might have been somewhere around the 1800s, actually. And anyway, she's then chasing out after these guys trying to find her kid. And she ends up working at a whorehouse and having to sell off everything. And it's a really interesting story, actually. The way she goes about actually finally getting her kid. And what is most interesting for me is I like to write stories in different time periods. And well, the trouble is I always try to cater my stories towards an audience today. So I always like to have an even mix of male and female characters. I always like to make sure that I'm giving as many good moments to males as I am to the females. And I'm splitting everything evenly to try and please the audience. But, back in those days, women were scum. Women were scum. They were not allowed a lot of stuff. They were at a man's beck and call. And I'd not really, I've always been very equal-minded myself. I'm all for equality, except for women. You stick to having the babies, or I don't want a human being spurting out of me, okay? It's gonna hurt a lot more for me. I can assure you of that. You stick to that, and then everything else can be equal. You have the kids, okay? And by that I mean you actually physically have the kids. I don't mean you look after the kids. But anyway, so it was interesting learning the concept of how women were treated back in those days, and I don't approve of it. So it's not like a good thing, but it's a piece of history. It's actually, from a writer's standpoint, it's interesting to learn and to be educated. I also watched a film about Christopher Columbus and his sail to the New World, which, I don't know, I thought it was really well done, the film, but I don't know, maybe I just wasn't into it for whatever reason, but I just couldn't watch it. I ended up snoozing most of the way through it. And again, another film that I watched was American Made, which has, I believe it was Tom Cruise in it. And basically, it's just him running a drug operation. It was based on a real story, which is things I always like when they're based on real stories, because you get to learn so much about stuff that actually happened. It wasn't fully based on a real story, it's inspired, so a little bit different than actually being based on the story, but at the same time, it was a really interesting film to watch, and I really enjoyed it. I feel like I can hear someone talking in the other room. I wonder if I've got company. I'll go check in a bit. We'll finish this video first. Now, one of the films that I haven't watched is Endgame, and a lot of people are watching it. I had the chance, and a lot of people are probably going to hate this, but I had the chance to go and see this VIP in a cinema just down the road from me. And this included, it was a private screening for 4 people. Actually, 1, 2, 3, for 5 people, sorry. Because it was a party of 5, yes. It was a private screening for this party of 5. You had your own room, your own big screen, and you had all you could eat. It was like £200. And I got the opportunity for absolutely free. I got the opportunity to go and do that for nothing. The 5th guy had pulled out, and they offered me his ticket. But it's like I said to them, 22 movies prior to that, I know nothing that's going on. I've watched the Avengers twice, and both of those times was when, well, you made me sit down and watch it, and then you decided you needed to show it to my wife. And I don't have an attachment to any of these characters. It would have been a fun experience, no doubt, but I also had work that I needed to do, and, you know, they're the kind of friends that they completely understand. But it's not like they couldn't go if they didn't have a ticket. If they didn't have someone for the 5th ticket, they could still go. More food to go around anyway. But yeah, so I don't tend to watch a lot of new movies. It's something that I plan to change. So much so that the cinema near me does this monthly card. It's like £18, so it's not a lot of money. And you can go and see an unlimited amount of movies. Or I suppose it is limited because you can only watch so many movies in a period of time. But it's limited to how many you can physically watch in that time. And I keep saying to myself, every month when I get paid, I'm like, you know what, I'll order it then. But it's like, I look at the movies it's on, and there's been one movie that I've wanted to see, and I've even forgotten what that's called. All year, there's been one movie I've wanted to see. Sorry, two. Because I wanted to see Happy Death Day to You. And I kind of feel like, well, I could buy them on DVD or Blu-ray when they come out. It's not a big deal. There's no point in paying £18 to go to the cinema to watch it, you know. So I end up putting it off till the next month, hoping that there's going to be something there. But even if there is something there, I haven't actually had the time to go and watch a film. I spend the vast majority of my free time, I spend either with my family, my daughter, doing stuff with my daughter, or if it's a week that I don't have my daughter, I tend to spend it on YouTube more. But yeah, I think that's going to call it for this episode. I talked about some of the movies. There are a lot more movies that I enjoy that I haven't got to talk about, but we're on the 3rd day here, so I think I'm going to call it for this episode, guys. So, if you've enjoyed the video, please do consider leaving a like. It really helps out the channel, and I really do appreciate it, so please do leave that like. And click subscribe if you want to see more from me. Guys, I'm Casey, and thank you so much for watching. And let me know some of your movies in the description. Let me know some of the movies that you enjoy in the comment section down below. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.